Hello and welcome to today's program, Data at the Edge, exploring modern networking solutions, brought to you by Lumen Technologies and Palo Alto Networks. I'm your host, George Jackson, with GovExec TV. The intersection of cyber and national security is a complex battleground, punctuated by rapidly evolving technologies and sophisticated external threats. For agencies and organizations that want to be prepared, the response needs to be underpinned by next-generation networking solutions that deliver data to the edge. That's easier said than done. Today we'll explore how public and private sector leaders can work together to build a modernized data infrastructure and right-size their workforce for the future. Joining me for that conversation, Devarius Peoples. He is Chief Information Officer at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Devarius, good to see you again, sir.
Thank you for having me, sir.
Here at the table with him, Jason Schulman, National Vice President of Federal Sales at Lumen. Jason, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to the conversation.
And always a great contributor, Eric Trexler, Senior Vice President, U.S. Public Sector at Palo Alto Networks. Good to see you again.
Great to see you again, George.
So, Devarius, kick us off. Broad question, lay the foundation. What does a modern and efficient cyber operation look like?
So first, just thanks for the opportunity to share just a little bit about what the Corps of Engineers is actually doing to support the nation. So when we think about modernized technology, we think about an organization that is in so many different locations, have the ability to work from wherever you are, and still be able to support and meet the mission with the proper speed to connect and the ability to access data in a secure manner. So some of the things that we begin to look at is how do we enable our workforce to be able to leverage this technology, whether that's through an iPad, iPhones, just regular day-to-day technology that you use at home that you're very familiar with. So from a modernization perspective, being able to do routine things in an excellent manner with day-to-day technology, secure and at the speed of light. That's some of the things that we begin to look at when you think about technology, modernization, as well as being able to enable mission support.
It sounds, Eric, a little bit like we're talking about modern endpoints for accessing all of that information. Could you build a little bit upon what Devarius was talking about there?
Well, I think it's endpoints, but it's also the combination of the endpoint with the network and bringing it together to get a global operational picture of what's happening in the enterprise. So there's a ton of information in the endpoint that we need to capture, but it's what do you do with it? How do you make it actionable? How do you address risk to the enterprise? Because the adversary only has to they get as many attempts as they want, and they only have to get through one time. So it's that integration, I think, that's really important to the enterprises.
It's a great point. Talk a little bit about, Jason, how leaders in those IT organizations can start to evaluate success along the way. What are some of the checkpoints that they face?
Yeah, I think we're talking about protecting national security and critical assets, ultimately our way of life. And to tackle these complexities, we really have to make network and security the core of our modernization. Public-private relationships are important. It's to deliver best-in-class technologies for sure, but it's more than that. It's deploying these technologies and managing the technologies through the full life cycle and making sure that they map to the mission. And from an outcomes perspective, really three things. It's resiliency, it's uptime, and it also includes, again, that roadmap to the mission. Everybody has a unique mission, and your partners have to be able to support it.
And George, I think as we modernize our IT infrastructures, getting more simple, driving to simple and streamlined is critical these days. Too many customers across America are trying to do integration at the customer site. And it's really hard when you have 50, 60, 100 security tools, trying to get them to all integrate, talk together, and get a clear operational picture of what's happening. Devarius, I'm sure you see that all the time.
Yeah, so some of the things we begin to look at, how do we take advantage of services provided to us as a service? From an organization standpoint, we fight the fight of life cycle replacement for end user devices, infrastructure devices, whether it's network, telecom, compute, storage. There's so many different impediments that technology that is either on-prem or even in various aspects of cloud that you struggle with being able to maintain. So a lot of the things that we're beginning to look at is how do we leverage services from a lot of our mission partners. I consider vendors to be mission partners as well as our other federal partners, leveraging integrated solutions as a service, which reduces our footprint from a technical ownership perspective, but allows us to share those things. So when you talk about the economies of scale, how do you leverage economies of scale without having to own it? Because again, if the data's secure, that's the main thing, securing the data at the edge, but being able to leverage shared resources. And that is why you see, especially from a Corps of Engineers standpoint in the Army, we're looking at a lot of those services as a service, cloud in certain cases as well. So a lot of those things are definitely being utilized.
As a service in a utility model, I think what we're talking about here is certainly the way to go. From a scaling perspective, it changes your budgets to an OpEx. It's easy to manage and maintain. Again, going back to the roadmap conversation, it allows you to focus on what's core to mission and lets the provider do what's context to support that. It also addresses the talent issue. And having a partner that can provide as-a-service solutions kind of takes away the need to keep talent, maintain talent. It's expensive at times. And generally speaking, there is a burnout in cybersecurity. So as a service can definitely address those issues.
Layer on for us, Eric, zero trust in this conversation.
Yeah, so zero trust, least privilege access, continuous trust validation, continuous security inspection of your data also. What we observe with a lot of customers is there's a lot of interest, a lot of talk, pretty much every single customer on zero trust. But you've got to get down to where are they on that journey. It is a journey. It's not a verb. A lot of people ask us to come in with our zero trust product or zero trust something. You can't really do that. So a lot of it's a dialogue. It's working with partners like Lumen, working with your customer like Army Corps of Engineers, and really understanding where they are and where they want to go, understanding risk, understanding prioritization to the entity, the organization, if you will, and where the gaps are that are the greatest risk to the business.
Once you're through that layer of understanding that Eric lays out, what are you looking to do relative to zero trust?
Yeah, so zero trust, the theoretical principles of zero trust, we're now moving from theory to implementation and practice. So when you say what are you trying to achieve, it's really security. Securing at the edge to be able to allow those that need access the ability to have access in a secure manner. So foundational principles that we're beginning to look at. One, what are the requirements? What am I trying to provide to an end user and in what manner? What do you need access to? You can't implement the zero trust principles as well as the framework without understanding the actual requirements. So being able to secure your requirements and then access the data, it's all critical. So we're looking at zero trust principles in many different aspects. You have the informational technology component, but then you also have the operational technology component, which is a component that is very least communicated, but it is probably one of the more critical aspects. So when you think about capabilities and things such as levees, locks, dams, critical waterways, many operational capabilities such as hydropower, navigation, dredging. Those are all of the things that we, from a Corps of Engineers perspective, we try to secure those things because we manage those on behalf of the nation from a civil works perspective. So security and not just information technology, but also operational technology from a zero trust perspective are all critical, and we're looking to overlay those principles in an operational construct.
I love when
too.
in an IT program a word like dredging comes up. It's just something new for me relative.
I haven't had that one, but one of the most difficult conversations we have is in the discovery phase, understanding from the IT or security personnel what they're trying to protect. Dams, bridges, that's hard to elicit from an IT customer at times. So I love hearing that. That's awesome.
And you bring up a really
Dredging.
good point. IT and OT have traditionally been air-gapped, and for the first time they're merging. You couple that with artificial intelligence and machine learning and the fast-pacedness of these environments for the first time being coupled. The responsibility of the CIO is ever increasing, and the security practices and the attack surface growing as well.
Agreed. We have to simplify the environments because they're naturally growing more and more complex.
Mm-hmm.
Devarius, as you move from network security to securing the data, what are some of the challenges that you're seeing the organization has to overcome?
Yes, several things. When you talk about it, we're looking at funding. Funding is one huge challenge. I think everybody's going through the fiscal challenges. Being able to identify the risk between the risk and reward between mission and security. I think those are two areas from a financial perspective. But then we're also looking at the war on talent. From a talent perspective, because now in this day and age, everybody's competing for the same talent. And then you add in the remote concept. Most people want to work from home or from a distant location without having to go into an office. And then when you look at training that end user talent or training our technicians, because ultimately as technicians, we have to be able to operate and defend at an efficient manner. But technology changes so frequently. So from a federal perspective, having our federal employees to be able to have those important conversations with our private industry partners and then us collectively growing together. We are seeing that war on talent is increasing every day, and being able to properly train our employees to stay up to date with current technology, take full advantage of those, know how to deploy, operate, and maintain when that time comes. That is a critical challenge for us that we're working to overcome in the digital age.
Something resonated in there for you, Eric, the war on talent.
It really did. I mean, there is a massive talent shortage. If you look at ISC squared, I think we're at 700,000 cybersecurity personnel in America alone short, right? So we're looking at automation. We're looking at orchestration. We're seeing a shift with our customers led on the commercial side, a move to cybersecurity platforms, right? Streamlining acquisition, streamlining training, streamlining the integration, doing it on the factory floor as opposed to the customer environment. I've yet to see customers that effectively integrate their technologies, multiple technologies over time, and then continue to modernize. So you can get that. Bringing in things like artificial intelligence to do human-machine teaming. So you don't have humans doing basic log scanning, as an example. Let the machines do that. Let the humans deal with the abnormalities that come out of the machine scanning. So there's a lot of capability, a lot of modern capability we can bring to bear in the modern enterprise to really address the talent shortage, because we don't have enough people.
Jason, amidst all of that change, all of that churn, before we went on the air, you also reported that there's been a shift in focus to the end user, part of the title of this program, to the edge. Tee that up for us.
Yeah, I think we have a real tremendous opportunity as work from anywhere has been finally embraced. Number one, it does address the talent issue, because you no longer have to be local to serve your mission. And that's both for private and public entities. But like we've discussed, it does broaden the attack surface, and that's why zero trust is something that's very important. You got to make sure that the right people are accessing the right data from the right tools. And everyone's on a different path to that journey, but in a public and private partnership, we can get there together.
Simultaneously, Deveris, has that shift to the end user and working from anywhere also had some unintended benefits as well? I mean, at the top of the program, you mentioned being accessible on mobile devices, et cetera. That strikes me as new technology versus some of these larger legacy systems built on COBOL, et cetera. Am I reading that right?
You are. So when you think about real world examples, just to kind of put it in context about the true end user and the benefits there. So for those that are familiar with dredging and navigation,
here it is again.
Those critical things. So just imagine yourself on a ship. And when you leave that ship and you're out there for a month at a time, and then you have to be able to put in your timesheet or to be able to reach back to your family, just to check on your kids or just to see how your wife is doing. But as you're going down the waterways and the water channels, the signal drops. Or before you can leave from docking out of the station, you have to put in your timesheet a month in advance, not knowing what may happen within the course of 30 days. So when you talk about computing on the edge, being able to ensure that our end users have the ability to do their job efficiently and effectively, what does that mean? Having access to data on demand, having the ability to connect in a secure manner. So now one of the things we're beginning to do is to empower our end users to have the ability to call their families as they go through their navigation journey or as they go through their dredging journey, having the ability to put in your timesheets every day as we should, not having to guess, well, I might be sick next week, or I might be sick the next day, or I might not be able to put my timesheet in, so I have to make a best guess. It is now real time, so we're beginning to empower our end users with the efficient technology, i.e. an iPad, an Android device, to be able to do their job wherever they may be. So that is meeting the end user and the customer where they are versus forcing them to be in a silo box, but putting the right security mechanisms and protocols in place, i.e. zero trust methodology to access email, whether that's Google Docs or whether that's Microsoft email and those type of things in a secure manner through the zero trust principles and cybersecurity concepts.
When you talk to end users, they expect that. They don't think about the complexity. They don't think about the security aspects of it. They just want what they have at home. How do I get to my Gmail? How do I get to something I want? The modern enterprise is able to deliver that today. I can work from anywhere in the country on any device securely at Palo Alto Networks now because the technologies exist today. We're delivering that to market, in partnership with our customers to give them what the consumers, what the workers of today and tomorrow demand.
Yeah, this has been a dramatic shift, being closer to the digital interaction. Massive shift.
It has.
And when you get closer to the digital interaction, resiliency, latency, really the customer experience improves dramatically. And when you couple that with bring your own device, then you have a workforce that is committed, a workforce that is happy. And really at the end of the day, the workforce is what differentiates us. People and culture together is what makes us unique. And it's really the only sustainable differentiator, I think.
And COVID accelerated that so much, nobody wants to go back. Our challenge is to do it securely.
Well, let's introduce another topic there, Jason, and that's SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. Keen focus for you, keen focus for Eric. I think it's a keen focus also for you, Devarius, so dive right in, sir.
Yeah, it's a great time in industry, and it's a unique moment where network and security are converging together, and giving folks that opportunity to kind of push things to the edge has real unique benefits. A classic use case that's being broadly used by government is the TIC, the Trusted Internet Connection, where in years past, it's been a single pipe coming from a data center, which had value at the time. It's now being pushed out to the edge, pushed out to the consumer who's obtaining the data. And it brings challenges from a security perspective, but the benefits outweigh.
And the challenges are easily overcome. Really what we're talking about is all traffic doesn't have to go back to the data center in a protected line, right? If you're going to Gmail, go straight to Gmail. If you have to connect to a mission application on the core of engineer network, you can go back there. The user shouldn't have to decide what they're doing. The client on the workstation or iPad or whatever it may be understands the traffic, protects it securely, and directs it appropriately. Great user experience.
So several things I think you have to keep in mind, though, as we talk modern technology. The policies also have to align with where technology is heading.
Agreed.
Because sometimes, a lot of times, more often than not, the policies restrict technology from being leveraged. So as we continue to modernize and lean forward, we're also trying to make sure that our policies also align there, because a lot of times the policies restrict you from being able to modernize. So you have a good idea, but the policy says otherwise. So how do you ensure those things are flexible and agile enough to be able to allow to access full capability, modernize in a secure approach?
Policy typically lags technology.
Yes.
To really realize some of the stuff that we're talking about, Eric, before we went on the air, you talked about the importance of closer collaboration. Before we go to break, can you just layer on to that a bit?
Well, I think the conversation around policy, there is a lot that we can do technology-wise in the industry. We're doing it today. When government policy lags, or anybody's policies or procedures lag, that will put drag on the system, and the users don't get the experience that they get at home, or that their spouse may get because they work for a commercial entity, right? So really addressing how do we work together to overcome the challenges we have, not just on a technology perspective, which are usually overcomeable, but policy, procedures, prioritization, understanding things like risk in the enterprise. Are we willing to take that risk? And the government does tend to lag at cases. And then there are other cases. You look at the DISA Thunderdome program. They are surging ahead. And they've adapted policy to provide an incredible user experience compared to what they had before. And the users they're super happy about what's going on there. So we can overcome policy. We can, but we have to work together.
Well, more collaboration between the three of us, Eric, Jason, DeVarius. Stick around. Up next, we'll drill down on the people question and the importance of operational technology. You're watching Data at the Edge, exploring modern networking solutions on GovExec TV. Be right back.
Understanding the threat landscape has never been more important to today's businesses. But in order to get ahead of threats, you need to be able to see and track how they emerge and evolve. What if you could apply threat indicators gleaned from the breadth of the internet to identify those potentially targeting your environment? That's where Lumen Black Lotus Labs comes in. As the threat research team of Lumen Technologies, Black Lotus Labs uses unmatched global visibility from the Lumen Internet Backbone, one of the largest and most deeply peered networks, to uncover the infrastructure bad actors use to wage attacks, from DDoS to ransomware to sophisticated and highly targeted campaigns. Our combination of expert research, machine learning, and automation leverages a massive data lake to conduct original threat discovery across the internet, analyzing more than 200 billion NetFlow sessions and more than 1 billion DNS queries each day, baselining the behavior of the internet to identify and alert on suspicious behaviors and attack patterns. But we don't stop there. When we confirm malicious infrastructure, we take confident action to disrupt it by regularly blocking, taking down, and notifying on confirmed command and control servers. And we feed this intelligence into the Lumen Connected Security portfolio to block threats before they reach your organization. Malicious actors have shown they have the resources and motivation to target networks of all sizes, but they can't hide in the shadows forever. Black Lotus Labs quickly sees and disrupts threats that others can't. Learn how Black Lotus Labs helps protect Lumen customers and keep the internet clean. Visit us at lumen.com/Black Lotus Labs.
Welcome back to Data at the Edge, exploring modern networking solutions. Brought to you by Lumen Technologies and Palo Alto Networks. I'm George Jackson with GovExec TV. We turn now to part 2 of our panel, a closer look at where agencies can spend more time on their people, the importance of operational technology, and more. Here again, DeVarius Peoples, CIO at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Jason Schulman with Lumen, and Eric Trexler of Palo Alto Networks. Gentlemen, welcome back. DeVarius, kick us off on people. Agencies spending a ton of time right now in areas like training, recruitment, retention, reskilling. Where are you spending most of your time on people?
Training is one critical area, but also salaries. Staying competitive, because in order to stay competitive, you have to be able to pay the proper SMEs to be able to do the job. So some of the things we're beginning to try to take advantage of. So OPM has special salary rates, SSRs, which allows us to give our employees more as we recruit them from a recruitment perspective. Also providing retention incentives as well to be able to retain the workforce that you have, because again, everybody's coming at everybody for work. Remote, they have so many different incentives. How do you remain attractive to an employee? Because again, it's like on the dating scene now, you have to always stay on top of your game in order to be able to stay relevant. And right now, being that talent, it's the war on talent. I continue to use that phrase because it is the war on talent. And war on talent means having a solid, we like to call it life-work balance versus work-life. Because again, even though you have to work to live, you should still be able to have a solid life, calm expectancy, and then be able to go to work. So we're trying to be able to provide our employees with everything that's afforded to them based off of the affordable things that OPM allows us to provide for our end users and our employees. But the war on talent is critical in training, salaries, and even also a well-balanced life-work balance lifestyle. Those are all of the things we're beginning to put more focus on as we begin to ensure that our workforce is taken care of and to be able to recruit for an optimal workforce.
I might steal that phrase, life-work balance. Go right ahead, Jason.
Imagine that. As said before, burnout is real, and it absolutely exists for the cyber professional. Along with getting that talent, maintaining that talent, and making that talent happy and investing in that talent, it's really critical to have options. And options can either come from Congress and budget, and they can also be from the private sector, as we can not only do things like staff augmentation, but also provide some fully managed services. We talked a little bit about as a service lens to help agencies through those tough periods.
This focus of this program, Data at the Edge, Eric, I'm also curious how the workforce has to be different because that focus is shifting to the edge. Does that require a different type of worker, a different set of skills? What does that look like in the evolution of the way that government is managing data and security?
Well, I think we're definitely looking for creativity in the workforce. But I agree with the other gentleman. I mean, training is super important, regardless of where the data is, right? That's just the way we work today. Recruiting is critically important. So getting that inclusion and diversity component, there's so much workforce out there, potentially, if we and when we tap into it. Hiring the best of the best, right? Getting people to understand what the workforce looks like and stay with the company, that continuity of service is really important. But we're all working at the edge today, so we understand that model. It's really, I think, with the Tavares' opinion, it's about retention. It's about making people feel valued. We're very fortunate in the public sector. We have a mission. We're serving America. Whether it's federal or state and local, our own communities, citizen services, we have a mission, and a lot of the people in the public sector space rally behind that mission, and it's more than just money. And that's a really good thing.
One of the things that we talked about in the previous segment, Tavares, is SASE. And tying these two things together, I also wonder, to Eric's point, if having some exciting, forward-leaning component of the work that you do, like the SASE pilots that you've undertaken at the Army Corps of Engineers, are part of the package there.
Right, so we are trying to reimagine what a professional in a modernized workforce looks like. Because again, there are so many different things that are afforded to you, whether it's some look at degrees, some look at certifications, some just look at persons that have been trained by themselves, because now cybersecurity, you can learn cybersecurity through YouTube. Those things you don't necessarily have to sit in a classroom. So reimagine the professional. But then as you reimagine the professional, understanding what a professional likes to have access to. So some of the things we've begun to look at, BYOD, bring your own device. The bring your own device concept allows you to be able to have access to your own personal data, your own personal device, as well as access to a personal to your personal work data as well. Not to have to take around 3 phones, but take around 1, and be able to still do your job efficiently and effectively. All of those things allow for a more attractive type of workforce. Because again, a lot of times the main phrase you hear is, well, I'm going to work for either the department or I'm going to work for the federal government, and I don't have access to the same things I have at home, even though we use the same type of technology. So then there comes that conversation of, well, I'm just going to go to private industry because the government doesn't allow me to do these things. How do we stay competitive, be able to provide end users, employees with the things that they need? And I think all of those are great things that we have to look at. But as a part of SASE and as a part of modern technology, I think BYOD, the bring your own device concept, has allowed us to begin to expand our horizons, reimagine how we enable a professional to do their job, as well as identify what securing data looks like, not necessarily from a government device standpoint, but from a personal device to be able to do your job as an end user.
Jason, could you talk a bit about the guardrails as organizations look to employ more modern networking solutions? We mentioned Zero Trust earlier. The cybersecurity executive order is a big part of that. What other guidance, what other guardrails do public sector organizations have at their disposal to help, I don't know, channel that power in that search toward modern solutions?
We're all familiar, I think, with our executive orders, along with some mandates. Mandates can be about logging, for example. Mandates can be around compliance and security. We also have some guardrails within government to help support, whether it's GAO or your OIG. And ultimately, we all report up to FITARA scorecards, and those scorecards can help measure and provide those guardrails to what good looks like.
FITARA, the Federal IT Acquisition Reform Act, for anybody in our audience who's unfamiliar, although they probably mostly
Impressive.
are, right?
That was well done.
Eric, would you like to add anything to that sort of policy, the guidance, those underpinnings of building a modern network?
So I'm practical, and we have a lot of guidelines, and we have a lot of rules and regulations. What I like to see is we understand the mission, we understand what we're trying to accomplish, we apply appropriate controls. It's not security by compliance. Compliance is not the way to do security. We have to comply. We have to understand the frameworks that we operate in. We have to comply with NIST requirements and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you just build an entire compliance framework around an application, it's not going to replicate the user experience you want, and that is not a good thing for the business. That's not a good thing for the employee.
You've referenced this earlier in the program, Devarius, but I think it bears importance for coming back to, and that's operational technology as a concept. This is something that you are keenly focused on. Give us the download there.
Yeah, so half of our major mission lines is consistent around operational technology. Again, when you think about navigation, hydropower, dredging, when you think about the water that you drink, being able to properly secure it, to be able to ensure there's no pollution inside of it, no bad actors have either tainted it or those type of things. All of that is managed by operational technology. And within the Corps of Engineers, that is a major mission line that we provide on behalf of the nation to ensure that we operate efficiently and effectively. So security is critical because no one thinks about the lights not turning on when you go to flip the switch. However, from an operational technology perspective, if not secure, then those lights won't turn on when you go to flip the switch. So how do we ensure we can enable that in a secure manner, protecting the nation from our electrical grids, even our hydropower aspects of things? So all of those things are what we pay close attention to, but being able to secure those, because operational technology is totally different than information technology. You don't patch it the same way, you don't manage and maintain it the same way. However, you still have the ability as well as the responsibility for securing it, as well as to be able to meet the mission. So we put a heavy emphasis on that, and trying to find that good balance of operating and defending and being able to secure it is something that we put a lot of interest in, emphasis on, but it is definitely a challenge to secure it, and finding the talent as well as ensuring that the funding levels are there to properly ensure those things are done. Those are all of the critical challenges that we face day to day.
Jason, Eric, it's also not attacked in the same way. Give us a state of the state. I'd love for both of you to weigh in on this. Like, what's new about the cybersecurity landscape for operational technology and other areas that organizations are dealing with right now?
As I mentioned earlier, it's traditionally been air-gapped from information technology. And that's a massive shift because the chasm's being closed. And within that, we're using AI and machine learning to really extract value, bringing those two together. With that, though, comes complexity. I think it's a new journey for most, but it's absolutely a trend. And what's happening as we're modernizing infrastructures, OT and IT are merging together.
They are. They're collapsing together, and I think one of the major factors, that horse has left the barn, right? Mm-hmm. We're not going to air gap OT systems anymore. They're connected. You saw it in the Target exploit from years ago from an HVAC system. They're connected. So you really need to figure out how do you protect those OT systems when the OEM vendor is not a security provider. They may not patch it in a frequent manner. They may not understand the latest threats. The team that's running those devices may not have accessibility to them to patch them appropriately. But the traffic is still coming from and going to them, and the adversary can use them as a jumping off point, or they can use them as the endpoint, where I'm going to take a dam offline, or I'm going to pollute water at a dam, in a reservoir or something. We have to see that. We have to do it. We have to simplify the environment. One of the things we're doing is we're really blending the IT-OT capability using security appliances that are already in the network, where the OT traffic is passing, to understand it, to understand the protocols, understand the risk and the vulnerabilities, and also protect those systems when they're not inherently, if you think of them as an endpoint many times, protected themselves.
Do you think, Eric, just as a follow-up to that point, that the systems now are being built in a way, too, that communication between updates is more effective? Meaning, things used to be built in a waterfall approach where it was kind of seamlessly put together. Now it's much more agile. It's much more focused on DevSecOps. Do you feel like the public sector and the people that partner with it have all kind of gotten that message and now they're singing from a single sheet of music?
We're making progress, but for anybody who's at an IP-connected refrigerator or thermostat, how much are you thinking about security? How much is that vendor who created it thinking about security? Yet it's on your home network or your work network. It's a launch point. It's an endpoint, right? Are we protecting it? Are we looking at it in the same way? We have a long way to go. As DeVarius said, this is a really difficult space. The typical people managing those devices at the enterprise level, they're not cybersecurity or even IT people. They're a DAM operator, right? So we're counting on them. There's an enablement and training component too. This is a hard space. We believe that by leveraging existing capabilities that understand those protocols, you can make some significant advancement despite the age of the device, despite how frequently you patch it.
DeVarius, we've talked about the foundation here. We've talked about some of the challenges. Let's leave our audience with a real note of optimism. If government does this right, if they secure data at the edge more effectively, what are the benefits for your organization or others more broadly? What do you start to see when data is more secure at the edge?
Well, it allows for senior leaders to be able to make real-time decisions with real data. That data is updated, that data is always accurate. And real time could maybe mean 3 to 5 minutes, but it's not 24 hours behind. Because again, a decision needs to be made, you need to be able to make that decision right then. So one of the things that secure data is allowing for us to be able to do is make better informed decisions. And I think that will enable all senior leaders through various echelons of government, whether that's the department or the federal side, to be more accurate with the decision making, as well as to make the best decision they can with the most important and accurate data. Because again, the data is the most important thing. So I think that's one of the benefits and the goodness of the things that we have to look forward to.
Jason?
Yeah, totally agree. I would also mention another benefit or outcome is a more collaborative, secure workforce, right? We can extract so much goodness out of that, and that ability to collaborate securely is critical. Ultimately, there's an opportunity to streamline and improve people, process, and tools. And at the end of the day, it's all about connecting people to data and applications quickly, securely, and effortlessly. And we're right there.
DeVarius, I'll take the other end of the spectrum. In addition to being good for management, it's really good for the end users too. They've got a seamless, frictionless experience where they're able to work more freely, more openly with applications in the enterprise. And that's a really good thing. It's good for everybody. So Jason, I think your summary was spot on. It's a great thing for every part of the business.
And you were talking earlier, Eric, about Thunderdome as a case study here. It seems like we've come full circle.
It's a great example of the DoD really modernizing for the business, for the organization, but for the users too. The user experience is better. The security is better. We're at higher efficacy rates on security. Much better results on the users from anywhere they are with any device. That's a great thing, and I think it's an amazing opportunity for other components of the government to look at how do we modernize in a very secure manner and provide great capabilities to our users to allow them to do their jobs better.
Well, Eric Trexler, Palo Alto Networks, Jason Schulman, Lumen, DeVarius people, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Forgive the pun. Thanks for dredging up some great insights with me today. And thank you, our audience, for tuning in. I hope you learned something new about moving data to the edge and what to look for as you explore more modern networking solutions. For GovExec TV, I'm George Jackson. Have a great day.